There you are.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. How is everybody doing? Good to see y'all. Good to see you, Audie. Audie a was a guest on episode 9 talking about media representation. Oh
Nice.
gosh, that chat looks horribly skewed. Well, it's gonna look like that. We are joined by the amazing Lynn Saga from YouTube.
Hello, everyone.
Let us know how the audio is. Make
Yes,
sure that
please.
you can hear me, you can hear Lynn Saga. Make sure to go sub to Lynn Saga if you have not done so already, because I absolutely love their content. Awesome. Thank you, Emily. Sounds like we're good to go.
Perfect.
So we got a number of things to chat about today. But I would like to give you a chance to introduce yourself and to, talk about your channel.
Of course. So, hi, everyone. My name is Lynn. I am 27 years old. My pronouns are they, them. Oh my god, I don't even know where to begin. I started my YouTube channel back in 2020 during the pandemic. I had graduated earlier that year with a theater degree, and I was gonna go out and audition and be a great actor, and then the pandemic happened, and I was like, what can I do with all of this creativity and keep myself productive? So I thought, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel. And I was like, what can I endlessly talk about? And that is being LGBT, specifically asexual, non-binary, and bi. So that's what I did, because at that time there wasn't a lot of representation for asexuals, specifically on YouTube or really anywhere on the internet from what I could see. There were very few when I was growing up that I remember seeing. So I thought, why not be the person that I wish that I had when I was younger? So I started my channel in September of 2020, and here I am now.
I actually started my channel in 2020 as well, because I was like, well, I'm stuck at home, there's nothing to do.
Right.
Let's start doing Pokemon Nuzlocke challenges at the time. And
Listen, it was a crazy time
it
for
was.
everyone.
Yeah, it was. Welcome on in, Golden Controller. How are you doing today? Myself, my name is Tai Wai. As I just mentioned, I started my channel in 2020. I work as a co-facilitator locally here, where I run an Ace and Arrow discussion group, which was one of the major sources of inspiration for this podcast. And the Aspec podcast, I'm interested in exploring asexuality and aromanticism through a lens of intersectionality, and really want to highlight the fact that asexuality and aromanticism have quite a range of diverse experiences, within the umbrella. They're not a monolith, there's lots of, unfortunately, misconceptions that through this podcast I'm hoping to be able to dispel and really allow society to better understand what asexuality and what aromanticism are. So the first question that I have for you is, when did you first realize that you were ace? And how easy or hard was it to figure out?
Honestly, I think I remember having those inklings that I was ace probably around 8 or 9, when boys and girls would like pick on each other and do all that kind of things and be like, "Oh, I like this person." And I'd be like, what are you talking about?" Um and then it wasn't really until I got further along, probably around 12, 13, 14, when I started to realize, oh, this is something that people actually feel and they're not like faking it. Which like is something I always have to remind myself that people aren't faking their sexual attraction. Um so apparently the first time I heard about asexuality, my sibling um was a lot more internet savvy and on Tumblr and getting into the queer community on there, and they had heard about asexuality. And apparently we had a conversation when I was 13 because I was like, I feel broken, I'm not feeling what everyone else is feeling. Why are all my friends talking about boys and girls and I'm just over here like I just don't feel any of that? And apparently they told me about asexuality. I do not remember this conversation whatsoever. I probably blocked it out because I didn't want to think about it. And then when I was 14, I met um, this girl from my church. I grew up in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or Mormons, and randomly she just started talking about being asexual, and I was like, "What? What is that?" And she started to explain it to me, and she simply said, "I just don't feel sexual attraction." And I went on Tumblr after that and looked into it more and completely resonated with it and was like, this is me. And for about 2 years, I identified solely with asexuality. And then when I was about 16 or 17, I realized that I was actually demisexual. I had had a crush on a friend of mine who was a girl, which was a big no-no, being raised in a very high demand religion. But I couldn't say that I didn't have those feelings for her, but I still very rarely have feelings for people. So demisexual was definitely the word that best describes how I feel sexual attraction. I've only felt sexual attraction two other times in my life. So when people say, "Oh, everyone's like that," I guarantee you, not everyone's like that. And then how easy or hard was it to figure out? Once I had the vocabulary for it, it was fairly easy for me to figure it out because I was like, "Oh, now I have this word," and it perfectly describes how I'm feeling. For the hard part, I think, was trying to explain it to other people, and that's always been a hard thing to do. Not so much to my family, because honestly, I think my mom's asexual, so she was like, "Oh, like everyone's like that." Um, but whenever I talk about it to like random coworkers or acquaintances, because I don't shy away from it. If someone asks me like what my sexuality is, I'll tell them. I've had mixed reactions from people telling me it's like a chemical imbalance that's not real. Oh, you just need to find someone. You're trying to be special. Blah 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 blah. So I think that's the only, for me, the hard part of like figuring it out is other people's reactions to it because it's not something that a lot of people talk about necessarily.
Definitely. And I can certainly definitely relate in many ways. I myself identify under the gray umbrella,
Yeah,
so it was a little bit harder for me to figure it out because of that kind of, gray, being part of the gray umbrella. I
yeah,
also did not have much in the way of sex ed that included any aspect of 2S LGBTQIA plus identity.
yeah,
Um, I graduated high school in 2005, so think back to, early 2000s sex ed was pretty much a joke compared to what it is today.
yeah.
And there was no gay straight alliance or anything like that at my school. So I
Hmm.
didn't have any terminology to describe, my experience. I just thought, why I maybe just don't care enough.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
went most of my life thinking, hey, I'm straight, but I just don't give a shit enough or something. And then late in my 20s, I discovered the term asexuality, and I got involved in some ace discords, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, a lot of this is resonating with me. And it wasn't until my early 30s that I came out as, gray ace. So here I was in 2019, 2020, finally coming out as ace. So it took me a very long time to figure it out. And then, as I've like to say, the floodgates opened. A year
Mm.
later, I came out as Arrow. I'm like, yeah, absolutely aromantic for sure. And then a few years later, I'm like, you know what? I don't identify as he, him. This doesn't work. And that's
Yeah.
when I came out this past year as non binary.
Yay.
So that was
Congratulations.
exciting. Thank you. So a lot has happened in the last few years for
Yeah.
me in,
I
kind of better understanding my own identity.
Yeah, I definitely feel it's such a cliche of like, oh, as soon as you figure out your sexuality, your gender kind of goes along after. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same way. Like I said, I was able to find the vocabulary when in relatively early teenage years. And then when I heard about being non-binary when I was about 18 or 19, that also clicked for me. And it was a lot easier for me to kind of make that jump because I'd already come out as asexual demi and then realizing that I also had attraction to multiple genders. So I was like, yeah, I'm non-binary.
Absolutely, for sure. I'm just going to try to fix the mic here a little bit because I think the
Not a problem.
balance is off a little bit.
Gotcha.
Um, my mic, I think I've had it for several years, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, I'm not getting it's I basically have to talk like this right into it in order for it to,
Oh,
so maybe
yeah.
that's the problem. Is that any better, folks? How's that? Is that a little bit better? Awesome. Thank you. All right. So yeah, I have it nice and close now. So hopefully folks can hear me better. So we've kind of alluded to this.
Hmm.
And, you know, asexuality is often a greatly misunderstood identity.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. This year in Pride, for example, I had somebody come up to me, at our Pride booth and question me for 10 minutes saying, like, are you sure? Really? Like, how could you know that you're ace? You just haven't found
Oh
the right
my
person yet.
God.
This went on for like
Oh
10
my God.
minutes. And I was like,
What the
what the
hell?
heck? And
That's
so,
crazy.
absolutely. So, that is one of the most frustrating things I've dealt with of recent. What are some of the most frustrating misconceptions around asexuality that you've experienced?
Um, I think um so one of the times I was explaining being demisexual to someone, and I thought this person was my friend. So I was like telling her everything about it, and she straight up to my face said, "Yeah, you're just trying to be a special snowflake." And for me, coming out and explaining asexuality to me, I'm trying to get you to understand me better. It's something that I tell people, but if I go into explanation, it's because I want to share that aspect of who I am. So hearing that response of, oh, you're just trying to be special, you're just trying to get attention, you're that kind of thing, that at the time I didn't take it super badly, like it hurt, but then looking back on it, because that happened, I think, when I was 18 or 19, and now that I have perspective on it, it was just a rude thing to say to someone who is genuinely trying to like connect with you. And I think that a lot of people don't come out as asexual because they get those kind of responses. The responses of, oh, everyone's like that. No, everyone is not. Or the response of, well, you haven't found the right person yet. And as someone who has felt sexual attraction, but it's a very rare thing for me to experience, I do get a lot of imposter syndrome because of that. But I also have had enough conversations with allosexual people, that's a person who does feel sexual attraction, to know that I'm not experiencing what they experience. One of my favorite things that, or like conversations I've ever had, was with a friend of mine, and she straight up was like, yeah, I saw a woman walking down the street, and was like, yeah, I'd hit that. And I looked at her, I was like, what do you mean you don't know her, you know nothing about her, like you would just have sex with this person? And she was like, yeah, I would. And that like blew my mind. Because obviously there are allosexual people that wouldn't say that, but for me, that was a confirmation of that is something that a lot of allosexual people would do and do. Hookup culture is a real thing. You do have, and a lot of people do have sex without romantic attraction. It is just the sexual aspect of it and the sexual attraction. And I simply just don't have that and never have. Um, and I think that's something that's very misunderstood about asexuality, is that it's not something to be fixed. I'm not broken. I just don't experience something. That doesn't make me less human. Um, so yeah, those are the kind of things that get me frustrated. Also, the whole like asexuals are ugly or they can't wear sexy things. Like, shut up. Sorry to be like rude, but who cares if an asexual wants to wear something that they feel good in, and then you're sexually attracted to them, but you're mad because they wouldn't actually have sex with you? Like, come on. Be an adult.
Absolutely. Are you familiar with Yasmin Benoit?
I love her. I absolutely love her.
She gets all sorts of hate
Yeah.
for that exact reason. And then on
Yeah.
top of that, being black, she gets even more hate for that. And
Yeah.
as when you were saying that, I was just thinking back to all the shit that Yasmin Benoit goes through
Yeah. It's
because
it's
people
incredible.
can't seem
Yeah.
to understand that what clothes you wear does not determine your sexuality.
Mhm.
How is that hard to figure out?
I don't know. I don't know if you saw, I think it was it last year? It might have been the year before, but she got a lot of hate for being the first, was it the London Grand Marshal at Pride Parade, and she decided to wear like a leather outfit.
Yeah.
The Twitter comments were
Oh,
insanely, they were they were racist,
yeah.
misogynistic, aphobic. I was like, if I were her, I would have just deleted like all of it. I would have been like, y'all are dumb. But I'm so happy she doesn't do that. It shouldn't be her responsibility to get all of that hate, but it's incredible that she is able to handle it with so much dignity and so much grace and just essentially say fuck all of you.
She's done such amazing work for the not only the ace community, but also obviously the BIPOC ace community in
Yeah.
particular. I certainly would never be able to put up with that much those men that deal of aggression and abuse on a daily
Yeah.
basis. It's absolutely amazing what she's done and what she unfortunately has to put up with to be an activist in this space.
Yeah. I think she was the very first asexual content creator activist that I ever saw online. Because I want to say it was her 2017 or 2018, she did an interview about being a lingerie model, but also being asexual. And I remember reading that and being like, oh my God, this is so cool.
Absolutely.
um, and so the fact that she has done so much in the last, oh my God, like what, 7, 8 years now? Um, it just goes to show you how strong of a person she is, and she genuinely doesn't deserve any of the hate that she gets.
Absolutely not. And unfortunately, it just seems to continue. And being where Twitter is these days, it has just gotten worse, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misunderstandings for sure, and demi erasure is a huge problem.
Yeah.
I've heard similar things, unfortunately said all across all sorts of social media about demi. Isn't that everybody? And I'm like, fuck no, it's not. Literally, you don't feel sexual attraction until you've developed a close emotional bond with somebody. It's not that you're
Yeah.
holding out to have sex with them. That is not it. It's literally you don't feel sexual attraction. That is not everybody's experience.
It's really not, and I hate when I like get those kind of because it's so frustrating to sit there and try to explain it over and over again. Like you said, I'm not holding out. It just isn't there. And from my experience, it takes me months. Like
Mm-hmm.
genuine. I always say it takes me like 6 to 9 business months if I'm gonna have sexual attraction. It's gonna be within those like 6 to 9 months. That's literally like a whole baby could be
Yeah,
born before I have sexual attraction for someone. Like, and like everyone else's sexual attraction, I can't control who it's for. So it's just like I it is one of the more frustrating things to hear as a demisexual person because you're constantly told that's not real, you're just picky, you're holding out on people, you're tricking people, and all that stuff, which is why a lot of demisexuals have a lot of trouble with like dating apps and stuff. I remember
mm-hmm.
I think I was on Bumble on like their friendship option, and I matched with someone else who was demisexual, and they were telling me about how they want to date and they are on apps, and it's hard for them because they're like, I might feel sexual attraction for you, but I also might not. And an allosexual person will take that personally, or a lot of them do. You might have romantic feelings for them, but that sexual attraction might not be there. And it's a hard thing to explain to people who correlate the two because they are so intertwined in our society and how people are raised to view romantic relationships. You have to have sex with it. Um,
Absolutely. And it goes back to, the whole relationship escalator thing
yeah,
where, you know, you start dating and dating leads to X, which leads to Y, which leads to Z. And
yeah,
for, in society's eyes, as you said, romantic attraction and sexual attraction are intertwined and you can't separate them.
yeah,
We say, wait a minute, are they actually? Or do you just experience both of them simultaneously? Because,
yeah.
that's the whole split attraction model, of course.
Yeah, no,
And
I personally wish that more people, because I'm of the belief that the split attraction model doesn't just work for asexual and aromantic people. I do think there are people, allosexual people and alloromantic people, who their romantic attraction and their sexual attraction don't line up, and it makes it harder for them to explain certain things. Um, so I wish it was more of a talked about thing within the queer community that, hey, your romantic attraction, your aesthetic attraction, your sexual attraction might not line up. And it's not just for asexual people, although asexual and aromantic people were the ones to, come up with that, because there are asexual people who do feel romantic attraction,
Mm-hmm.
and there are aromantic people who do feel sexual attraction.
Absolutely, for sure. And because it was within the ace community where the split attraction model was first kind of developed.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's more commonly used within the ace and arrow communities, but I really think that it can be applied anywhere.
Yeah,
It
I
doesn't
do too.
have to be just within the ace and arrow community.
I'm gonna have to let in my cat. Hold on one sec.
No worries.
It's okay, baby. Wait. Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
No worries. Busby brought up a real good point. They said the complete lack of introspection allos have towards their sexual attraction is absolutely wild.
It
Trying to
is.
explain demi attraction is such a difficult thing because they'll be like, I don't want to have sex with every person I see.
Yeah.
No, that's not the point here. It is literally you don't feel sexual attraction
Yeah.
until there's a close emotional bond.
Yeah.
That is
It's
not the
also
same.
just you can be a straight person and not be attracted to everyone of the opposite
Hmm.
sex, but you're still you I mean, people have types and that kind of thing. So
Hmm.
obviously you're not going to be sexually attracted to every single person, but you're still sexually attracted. There is a difference.
Absolutely. And being gray ace myself, the close emotional bond part is not necessarily required, but
Yeah.
my experience is very much different from the allo experience. I've
Yeah.
never had the desire to go, on hookups. I've just never been that. It's never been really part of my life. Just don't
Yeah.
like sex. Ooh, no.
I do that too. Like when I'm not interested in anyone, when I think about it, I'm like, why do people do that? That's like so weird. You want to spend your time doing that? Like, don't you have to shower after? And it takes so much time to do all of that. Like, what do you do all day? Like,
So true. uh so kind of building on what we've talked about here.
Mhm.
And I think we've somewhat alluded to some of this, but asexuality is often called the visible orientation. And obviously, as we've alluded to, asexuals often experience erasure of their identity,
Yeah.
as well as oppression that, even comes from within the broader queer community in some cases. Why do you think that this erasure is such a common experience for the ace folks?
Um, I know from my community on YouTube, a lot of people don't feel like it's necessary to come out. It's not something that they feel necessarily pertains to anyone else. They're those people that are just like, "Oh, I'm content to let everyone in my life just think I'm a loner or I'm going to, be celibate for the rest of my life," those kind of people. Um, so I think there's a lot of people that just don't come out, which is perfectly fine and valid. I will never tell someone they have to come out. And that goes for any aspect of the LGBT community. It can be not safe. Um, so I'll never say you have to come out as anything. But I think only recently we've really seen, at least on my like side of the internet, more people talking about being asexual, more people talking about the micro labels under the asexual spectrum. We got Chapel Roan literally saying she's demi in a podcast interview and talking about it. So I thought that was a win. I was so
Hell
excited when she
yes.
said that. I
Hell
was like,
yes.
a demi lesbian? I'm so here for it. Um, so I think it is a lack of representation because, like I said, a lot of people don't feel like it's necessary to come out. I feel like a lot of the oppression comes from a lack of understanding and how obsessed with sex our culture is, which is very weird because a lot, especially in the United States, and especially if you grew up in a more evangelical, high demand religion, such as myself, you're told you're not supposed to have sex until you get married, and then you're supposed to do it like rabbits. And so there has historically been um, conversion therapy for asexuals getting harassed, mistreated. The R word, I don't know if I can say that on Twitch, but it happens to asexuals because it's like, what's wrong with you? But we're also told not to have sex. So us not having sexual attraction shouldn't be an issue, but then it is. So I think that's where a lot of the oppression comes from Western culture. The obsession of you need to abstain from sex because it's supposed to be a sin and it's supposed to be something you crave
Ooh,
and you're not supposed to
shiny.
have it. But if you don't have sexual attraction, what's wrong with you? You need to like fix it. So that's where I see like the oppression coming from is people trying to fix asexuals and unfortunately doing things to them that they don't want to do.
It is so unfortunate, but conversion therapy has been a huge issue, and corrective rate, sorry, that's a really triggering concept, but this is something that is very problematic for
Yeah.
the asexual community because of the misunderstandings that people have. It's like, how can you possibly not experience sexual attraction?
Yeah.
That's just such a foreign concept to, as you said, so many people, given
Yeah.
society's expectation that we are all sex craved individuals. And, you know, everybody's got this the grand awakening just waiting in the wings. You know,
Yeah.
it's, you know, you're
uh
the moment that you experience sexual attraction, boom, you're an adult. And as a result, you know, there's a lot of unfortunate infantilization
there is.
within the community, not by asexuals, but outside, you know, by outside, because we've never had this so-called grand awakening that we're supposed to have. And
Yeah.
it's so problematic.
Yeah. And I've again because I've been doing this for 4 years and have heard a lot of stories from my community and comments and people messaging me and that kind of stuff. They have like had experience or had a partner do something that they didn't necessarily want to do, or they just kept asking so many times they were just like fine, whatever. And I'm like, that's not okay. Your boundaries are your boundaries and no one should be pushing that. And then when it comes from inside the community, like within the queer community, that's when I get hurt. I don't really care what straight people have to think about me. I really don't. I don't care what the cisheads think of me. But when it's people from within the queer community, because I've also gotten those
Mm-hmm.
comments being like, you're not part of the community. Or if you didn't have attraction to multiple genders, you're not allowed. Um, like that's what makes me a good asexual or demisexual because I've had attraction to all of these different genders. Um, and I'm like, no, heteroromantic asexuals aren't experiencing what heterosexual heteroromantic people are. But I'm also not going to sit here and make every single heteroromantic asexual person identify with the community. That's a personal choice. But if they do identify with the queer community, why is it my place to tell them that they're not part of it? Literally, the person who introduced it to me, like the concept of asexuality, she she is a hetero romantic asexual person, and she's married and she has a kid, and it's wonderful. And I'm just like, why hate on people within your community? I never understand gatekeeping. I never understand division within the queer community and trying to pick each other apart and hierarchy and all that. And then even within the asexual community, there are hierarchies.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't had sex, you're like
Mm-hmm.
a gold star asexual. Like
That part
it's
is
so
so wild.
interesting.
It's like,
Right?
why should you gatekeep asexuality? You know, why is, somebody that's had sex within the ace community somehow supposed to be demonized for it?
Yeah.
That's not what it's about. It's about a lack of sexual attraction. Or
Yeah.
as Sharonda J. Brown says, a um, experience around sex that is atypical of that of the allosexual community.
I love that definition.
I absolutely loved that definition when I read it in Sharonda J. Brown's Refusing Compulsory Sexuality, because there's so much more to, the ace identity as well.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's not about whether you have or not had sex. It's a specific identity, and there are aces for whom they'll have sex because their partner wants it, or they want to form some sort of emotional bond. That's perfectly
Yeah.
okay. That's fucking valid.
Yeah.
Why gatekeep it?
Yeah. It's always so interesting to me because I am an asexual, demisexual person who has done intimate things. And before I did anything, people used to say, "Oh, well, how do you know if you've never?" And then as soon as you do something, they're like, "Well, you can't actually be asexual because you've already done something." It's such a catch-22
Mm-hmm.
situation. It's
Shifting
such a, "Oh, I
goalposts.
got you."
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It's like a haha moment for them, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, what do you want from me?"
There's always shifting goalposts. No matter what you do,
Yeah.
you can never meet that shifting goalpost, because they'll just
Yeah,
shift it, keep shifting it, so that it's never obtainable, and it's infuriating. Welcome
it
on
is.
in, Vorbane. Good to see you. All right, so we've talked about asexuality as the invisible orientation. Very much, we can also, I think, lump aromanticism as an invisible, I guess it's not a sexual orientation, but it's a romantic orientation. It's very much invisible.
Yes.
So, I think you can also lump, aromanticism under being invisible as well, because there's a lot of parallel, you know, erasure that goes on with that. And so I think we can say both asexuality and aromanticism are invisible orientations, and
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately have experienced many of the same types of erasure as one another.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things is hearing from Aero Ace folks, um, because it's not something I experience, so I love hearing their experiences. But I'm really happy that we're starting to see a little bit more representation
Mhm.
in media around Aro Ace folks. I know that Heartstopper, this next season that's coming out, hopefully they're going to explore Isaac's character a little bit more. I didn't like how they handled it in season 2 particularly, but I'm hoping they go a little bit deeper in that, especially because the author is Aro Ace herself. Um, and then I know Has Been Hotel is a little bit controversial, but Alistair is Aro Ace as well. So I think even though we're seeing it paired together, and I do wish there was representation of Aro folks that maybe didn't go with, an Ace identity as well.
Mhm.
I definitely think it's people are starting to move towards talking about aromanticism, at least in media, which I think is always a positive when it comes
Absolutely.
to like asexuality or aromanticism, any sort of anything we can get right now because it's
Yes.
so bad.
And it's good to see that it's moving beyond the stereotypical arrow ace experience that,
Yeah.
early media representation has always typically showed. And, being that, you have to be arrow ace in order to be a valid media representation. And
Oh yeah.
seeing that change is wonderful. It's been hecking slow. And
It really
it has been, there's still a long way to go, but things are starting to move in the right direction. It seems like, at
yeah.
least, and we'll come back to media representation
Oh yeah.
in a later question. But I think we've talked about the fact that, as uh, Busby said, aspec people in physically intimate relationships are just as aces who've never had sex.
Yes.
Amen. Absolutely. So around this kind of topic, sex positivity versus sex favorability. These are two terms that are often conflated with one another. I've
Yeah.
conflated the two in the past. So, to remind folks, sex favorability has to do with your own experiences or interactions towards sex. So, this is about your own experience. And these can broadly, approximately be broken up into sex repulsed, sex indifferent, sex favorable. Are you repulsed by sex? Are you kind of like, take it or leave it? Or are you favorable towards it? And, this may also not be constant over time for everybody. There could be cases where you're favorable towards it, repulsed in other ways. That is 100% valid, but this is about your own experience. Sex positivity, however, is a more general concept that has to do with one's opinion on sex in general and its place in society. And here we can kind of, again, broadly categorize this into three main categories: sex positive, sex neutral, sex negative. You know,
Yeah.
if you believe that, people should, be free to have consensual sex and you're happy with that, sex positive. Sex negative is you don't agree with people having, sex theoretically. Sex neutral is kind of like, I don't really care. Why then are these two concepts often conflated, do you think, particularly outside aspec communities? And
I
then
mean, I'm not gonna. Oh, sorry. Go
and then
ahead.
it's okay. And then why are aces generally assumed to always be sex repulsed and sex negative?
So I definitely conflate the two.
Yeah.
So thank you for that explanation. um, I think it's because people just don't have the language for it. Like you just explained it so perfectly. I wish everyone could hear that explanation actually, because I very much appreciate that. And I know that I slip up sometimes with conflating the two myself. Um, but yeah, I think that people just aren't educated on it. It's not something that is really talked about in sex ed. And in sex ed, especially in the United States, there are a lot of places that only teach abstinence. So why would they try to teach people about being sex positive or sex favorable or neutral about the situation when they're trying to, just shut down the whole thing in general? Um, and then as for asexual, like the stereotype of asexuals being sex repulsed and sex negative, I think it's because they don't want the idea of someone who isn't sexually attracted potentially being okay with themselves engaging in those activities. Um, I myself, when I am feeling sexual attraction, I'm very favorable for it. I'm all for it. But when there's nothing there for me, it's incredibly repulsive. When I think about it, I'm like, again, why would I do that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's kind of just a concept of like, that's so interesting. Like, I think of it a little scientifically and then like, oh, like, why would I want to do that? Um, and then for a general statement of just like sex positivity, yeah, I think consenting adults should be able to do whatever they want as long as they're not hurting each other.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it my place to tell someone what to do?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just think it goes against the stereotype that people have built up in their heads for asexuals to adhere to. And again, it just hurts the community, and it doesn't really leave room for individual experiences.
Definitely. And Talon brought up a good point. So, sex repulsion and sex negativity is kind of the default assumption,
Yeah.
um, because how could you, if you don't experience sexual attraction, how could you, in the eyes of society, be favorable towards sex? Like that just
Yeah.
doesn't, that I don't think that comprehension is possible for, broader society currently as it stands,
Yeah, I
unfortunately.
100% agree with that.
I think slight media is starting to maybe move away from that. We still got a long ways to go, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
Busby always cracks me up. They said, I'm sex repulsed personally, but very sex positive in general. Get ya freak on, but I don't want to see it. That is fucking
Listen.
amazing. Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's valid as hell.
Absolutely. 100% valid. So we've talked about this a little bit already, when we talked about, oppression and erasure of ace identity.
Mhm.
But I've certainly heard from ace folks, and I've unfortunately experienced it, at Pride this past year, that the queer community is not always accepting of asexuality as a queer identity. What
Yeah.
has your experience been like within queer spaces around, you know, your ace identity and about asexuality in general? Have you typically found those spaces to be accepting of asexuality?
Yeah. Um, so in IRL spaces, I tend not to I haven't really had many negative experiences. Um, Most of my friends are very accepting whenever I have come out to other queer people in real life. I have never had a problem personally, which is very, very nice. And I'm very happy that I've had that experience because I know that's not something that happens to everyone. It's also because, unfortunately, I haven't had a ton of interactions IRL with a wider queer community. It has been mostly like my friend group and that kind of thing. Because going into like what should have been my early to mid 20s, the pandemic happened, and a lot of my interactions have been online with the queer community. Um, so my online experiences have definitely been a lot worse from the queer community. I remember specifically, I think it was like a year ago, maybe at this point, maybe a little bit less than that. But I got this long, drawn out comment from an older lesbian essentially telling me that I shouldn't be part of the queer community because of my asexuality and I wasn't valid for all of these different and it literally I cried that day because I
I'm
was just
so
like,
sorry.
you took the time to write the, and it always surprises me when people, especially in the queer community, take time to write like paragraphs about why asexuality shouldn't be a part of it. And it's because they do see it as a lack of like a lack of having any wanting to do with sex, and because of how sexualized the queer community is, a lot of people are like, the reason I'm in the queer community is because I have sex with X, Y, and Z. And that's why I prefer, what's the name of the author? I apologize that you just read out. Her
Sharonda J.
definition,
Brown.
yes. Her definition, because it's not saying that we're lacking anything. I don't see my asexuality as a lack of something
Oh, absolutely not.
whatsoever. When I was younger, I did, because of all of the stereotypes and feeling like I was being left out and feeling like I was gonna die alone and not have anyone to take care of me and all that, like stuff that gets pushed that quote unquote only a partner can give you, which is not true. Um, and so it's just so weird to me because I've always felt queerness from my asexuality because it differs so much from a stereotypical cis het way of going about living your life. I'm like, I think being asexual is one of the queerest things you can do. Personally, like I do. So whenever anyone in the community, especially online, because I mean, like I said, that's where I get a lot of like my interactions from. It hurts me more than if like a straight person says it, because it's like, why? It goes back to like, why would you say that to someone? So yeah, I've definitely had online be a little bit more of a negative experience. IRL, when I tell other queer people, they're like, oh, okay, yeah. Which I wish that was my overall experience for both places, but it's not.
Absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, online, as you know, we've seen more broadly, people have feel safer to say some of the most horrible possible things you possibly can say because they can hide behind some sort of fake identity or hide
Oh yeah.
behind a username and not, say it directly to your face or something. And
Yeah.
it's rather unfortunate. There could unfortunately be part of that being like, aha, I'm safe behind this username. I am going to say some of the most horrific things possible because of that. And you
Yeah.
didn't say it
Ooh,
necessarily to your face
shiny.
in IRL spaces.
Yeah. I had, at least for my channel, an asexual video go viral. It got over 200,000 views,
Oh
and the
wow.
comments on that short were disgusting.
Oh, I'm so
And
sorry.
I'm just like, you really want to sit here and it was really funny because like 2 days before that happened, I got a comment saying, "Oh, I always
Ooh,
see
shiny.
asexuals saying they got a lot of hate, but like I never see it." And I really wanted to like after that happened, go and comment and be like, look at the comments in this video and tell me that asexual people or people on the A spectrum don't get hated on. Like, please tell me that. I get it daily. Especially I really wish YouTube had a better way of like weeding out their comments and their algorithms, cuz I feel like the shorts are the worst of it. TikTok, it can be bad, but it's fine. And then Instagram, honestly, Instagram's comments are probably the best that I've seen. Um, but YouTube, just because there's so many people on it, it's been the longest standing platform. There's just so many people on there that think they can say whatever the hell they want. It's something else.
Absolutely. And Vorbane brought up a really good point. Yeah, YouTube is apparently super bad for comments right now.
They
I
are.
actually, I sort of half jokingly said, I finally made it on YouTube because I got one of my first, you know, hate comments on a video I
Like,
posted from this podcast. And I'm like, before that, I was far too small for people to actually care what I said. But that particular clip or that particular short got like 5 or 6 really hateful comments. And I'm like,
yeah.
wow, I've actually made it as a content creator. I just got my first hate mail on YouTube.
No, I remember the very first hate comment I ever got. It was actually the day that I got my first 100 subscribers on YouTube, and they literally said, "Damn, I knew all asexuals were ugly." And I was
What the
like, I
fuck?
can't even I was like, I'm so happy about having my first 100, but damn, going after my appearance like that because at the time it was still something that I was sensitive about. Like, I don't care if you sit there and validate my asexuality, you invalidate my gender, but as soon as you at that point in my life go after how I look, I was like, oh damn, that stung. I'm not like that anymore. I've had enough people telling me I'm ugly, but like, at the time I was like, shit, that kind of ruined my day.
I'm so sorry, but
No,
absolutely,
it's
I
all
can
good.
totally appreciate that. I'm so sorry that you had to deal with that. And
No, it's
unfortunately, it
it's all
seems
good.
like, as Vorbane said, it's been getting worse and worse.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's gotten worse within the last, honestly, year to year and a
Yeah,
half. And
absolutely.
I don't know why. I mean, yeah, I think I know why everyone's
Yeah,
angry, but like,
yeah, yeah. I think there's some of that for sure.
yeah, definitely.
Sorry about the ads, folks. For those subbed, you can hear us. Otherwise, you got 1 more minute to go. I know they can't hear us. Ah,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It's always I never know what to do
Wait,
because
let me introduce your chat to this cat. I will be that person and be like, look at my
absolutely
cat.
go right ahead. I never know what to do with
Come
ads.
say hi.
Do I do a one
Say
three
hi.
minute block? Oh, that's
Pippin, where are
so
you?
cute. I love your kitty,
He's a
by
little
the
beast.
way.
His name is Pippin.
Aw, hi
He
Pippin.
imprinted himself on me. He is
Aw.
very sleepy right now, but I hope he's entertaining your chat.
Absolutely. We love
Hey, my
we
boy.
love kitties in this chat. I
Where did
sadly
my
can't
kitty
have
go?
any pets because shared living spaces. Boo.
I was like, yeah, that's the best I can do right now.
Welcome back, Vorbane. I've never known what to do with ads because no matter what you do, it doesn't work. Either
I
you
know.
have three 30-second ads per hour, or or sorry, you have like you got to have 3 minutes of ads. So
Okay.
either you do one 3 minute ad block every hour.
Mm,
Do you do two 1.5 minute ad blocks, or do you do three 1 minute ad blocks? They all suck,
got you.
and I've never known what is the best to do.
Did Twitch just start like when did they start doing that? Because when I was streaming, that wasn't like a thing.
Yeah, recently they basically forced you to have 3 minutes of ads.
That's so annoying. Oh, sorry. I'm like, I don't
That's
want to get you.
No, it's all good. I vent about it all the time, but it's a big problem with a lot of the streamers I know because we don't really have much control. You can basically choose how to split those 3 minutes up, but beyond that,
Gotcha.
it's got to have 3 minutes. And if you try to lower it to less than 3 minutes, Twitch will still bump it up to 3 minutes anyways.
Oh my God. That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
It really be like that.
Damn. I'm so sorry.
It's just the way it is. Twitch has got to make that sweet moolah.
They really do. They're just hurting for money.
I get like the tiniest fraction of a cent of that ad revenue.
I mean, you should be getting more, but it is what it is.
I usually make about, on an average stream, maybe 2 cents of ad revenue
Stop.
or less.
They'll give you like half of a penny. Here
Yeah,
you go.
exactly.
So I really wish they paid their streamers better. I wish God. Uh
It's so much harder to get monetized on YouTube though. It's fairly easy on Twitch.
oh, okay.
You just need 50 followers. You need an average of 3 viewers over the
Gotcha.
course of 7 streams in 30 days. So you can
Oh,
fairly
okay.
easily do that. YouTube though,
I
you need
know.
3,000 watch hours just to get memberships, and that is so hard to do.
I know. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really happy that I started my channel 4 years ago because I don't think that I would be monetized with
Yeah,
how it is right now.
yeah.
It was a lot easier to grow on YouTube.
Hmm.
Like even 2 years ago, it was easier. I don't know what they're doing with their algorithms, and honestly, I you could complain about Twitch. I could literally complain about YouTube
Oh,
all day.
absolutely. I mean, I did do YouTube content. I still do. I've kind of backed off on it, but
Yeah.
it is so hard to do anything on YouTube these days.
Oh, I know. I'm I'm really lucky that I'm still monetized and
Yeah,
I get for me a good amount
yeah,
every month.
absolutely.
Um I do wish it was more, so like
Yeah,
I am trying to still build up and get the algorithm to like push out my videos a little bit more, but honestly, I like my channel how it is and I want to just keep talking about the stuff that I want to talk about. And
absolutely.
it's always nice to have like an outlier video that does like super well, but I'm
Oh,
also
for
like
sure.
I want my channel to be a safe space and a cozy space, especially cuz there's so many conservative queer people right now making so many getting so many views off of
Oh,
just negativity and I hate it. I anyway.
yeah. So, so true. Yeah, Talon mentioned you watch, 3 gaming videos on YouTube and you get recommended some of the most cringe shit out there,
Dude, it's so bad.
unfortunately.
I I don't know what they've done to their algorithm whatsoever. I kind of wish the algorithm was like it was in like 2015, 2016. Because it was more fair back then. And they also paid queer people a whole lot more. I know there
Hmm.
was like a whole thing back in I think 2018, a lot of bigger queer content creators and like trans
Hmm.
specific content creators came out and essentially said, yeah, YouTube just slashed my CRM and I'm making a lot less money now. And so like I know that was one of the reasons back in that at that time I was thinking about making a channel and that like discouraged me because it's like, well, they're just going to discriminate because I'm talking about LGBT topics. Um, but in 2020, I was like, you know what, whatever. I don't
Yeah,
care. I'm bored. I want to do something creative here.
absolutely. And to be honest, the best content you make is the content you enjoy doing.
Oh,
In the long
100%.
run, your chat, your viewers are going to see that you're enjoying it,
Yeah.
and that's going to bring them back. If you're doing shit that you hate, that's going to come across, and you can try to keep that facade up for a short period of time, follow those, um, follow the trends, but it's going to
Yeah.
catch up to you eventually. So you really need to focus, or, in my opinion, I want to focus on content I enjoy doing.
Yep.
That I think reflects best back to my viewers. And I think in the long run, that's what's going to allow my viewership to grow.
Oh, 100%. I definitely think because I also do social media managing for a living. It's my day job. Um, but authenticity right now, I think, is so important because we see so much fake ass shit online. I
Yeah,
think it's one of the reasons why people like Chapel Roan have grown to be as big as she is, and now she's trying to set boundaries, and people are like, "What is this?" But I'm like, there shouldn't be that. Someone should be able to create what they want to create and still be able to set those boundaries and be like, hey, this is just what I like to do. I want you to enjoy it. Like, and that's just it. Um, but yeah, I definitely think within the next like 4 or 5 years, the big thing that people are gonna want to see from their content creators, we're gonna, I think, move away from like influencer and that kind of thing and just have it be about people authentically talking about their experiences or authentically being funny and just not trying to sell you things all the time.
absolutely. As soon as, I see that sort of shit on a channel, I'm just like, maybe I'm not
Yeah.
going to watch it.
It's so hard because brands do pay a lot.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's such a hard balance because obviously
Yeah,
if you want to make a living, you got to do
absolutely. It's so
something.
hard to make a living as a content creator. I
Yeah.
completely get that.
But I'm like, if it's every single video,
Yeah.
like stop. Like, stop.
There's a balance for sure. There's
Oh yeah,
absolutely a balance.
100%.
I'm lucky enough that for me, this is a hobby. It's always been a
Yeah.
hobby. I always see it as a hobby. I
Yeah.
don't think I'd want to go full time
Mm.
just because I don't think I'd have the energy to be able to commit to it
Yeah,
20,
that's valid.
all the time. Like, I hit a 3 hour stream and my brain is like, okay, nap time.
Yo, I do the same thing. I'm so bad because when I do stream, I tend to put a lot of energy into it
Yeah.
because I want people to have a good time. So I'm not gonna lie to you. I normally tell my chat, "Hey guys, listen. As soon as it gets to the hour and a half mark, I'm gonna go take a nap. I need to go sleep. Like, I need a drink and sleep. Like, because
Yeah.
it's not a performance, but it's energy that you're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely so true. It takes energy. It's
Yeah.
takes a lot of energy and a lot of focus to follow chat, try to stay entertained and at the same time play a game as well.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of multitasking that goes on. It is labor, as Corbane
Yeah,
said, and
it is.
Busby mentioned watching the "Let me restock my 30 different types of specialty crafted ice cubes with fruits and flowers inside them" videos on TikTok.
Wait, those are great though. I love those, or like fridge organizing
Yeah.
videos. I love organization videos so much because I'm like, yeah, I can do it. I could never do that. I have too
Mhm.
much ADHD to do
Valid.
that.
So valid. We're at about an hour and a half here.
Yeah,
How are you feeling on that? Do you want to take a
I'm good.
break? Do you want to
No,
take
I'm
a
good.
break? Do you want to keep going?
We can keep going.
All right. Sounds good. So we've alluded to this, a couple times already. And the previous episode of the podcast, episode 9, focused a lot on media representation.
Hmm.
And I know that you've brought it up in some of your recent videos, and that
Yeah.
media representation of asexuality has been historically terrible. So I'll preface this by saying, and I talked about this in episode 9. So for those of you who weren't, did not see episode 9, historically, ace characters have often been coded, or, ace or arrow coded um, characters are often been shown to be lacking in emotional maturity and emotions of any type. And so, you can think back to Sherlock Holmes as,
Yep.
being potentially a sex averse arrow ace who's married to his work. He's got no time for emotion, and unfortunately perpetuates the stereotype that all asexuals are cold and almost machine-like in their personality, and there's nothing else to them. They all they care about is work. They don't want any relationship with anybody. They just want to do their thing. And that's problematic because that's not the case for 99.9999999% of the ace folks I know.
Honestly, same.
And then you get the other problematic representation where asexuals are portrayed as villains. So, for example, in Ian Fleming's James Bond series, there's a number of characters that are villains, such as Rosa Klebb in From Russia with Love, Auric Goldfinger from the Goldfinger book, and Ernst Stavro Blofeld in Thunderball have all been ace coded to some degree. And this particular phrase around Rosa Klebb is, I think, just captures the really problematic correlation, or basically conflation, of asexuality with not caring about people. So Ian Fleming writes on Rosa Klebb, much of her success was due to the peculiar nature of her next most important instinct, the sex instinct. For Rosa Klebb, undoubtedly belonged to the rarest of all sexual types. She was a neuter. And then Ian Fleming goes on to basically argue that because she does not experience sexual attraction, ergo, she could care less about people, she's a villain.
Oh
What in the
my
absolute
god.
fuck, right? That's the shit that you had to put up with historically for asexual representation.
I had no idea. That's disgusting.
Isn't
That's
it?
so gross. Oh my god. Cause like I always knew about Sherlock as someone who grew up on Tumblr and was a teenager during the whole BBC Sherlock thing. I don't think you understand the the tiny crumbs that were given in that show to Ace. I would literally sit there and be like, "Oh my god, I love this," but I hate it cuz it was the only thing I had. It was
Yeah.
like the closest thing I had to any sort of representation. And then also, shipping John Locke and being like, no, he loves John and everything. Um, and the aphobia from the crew was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, Stephen Moffat and Benedict Cumberbatch, the things that they said about the character is gross. And definitely fed into asexual stereotypes and um I mean, Stephen Moffat is disgusting man anyway. I could probably go on and on and on about how he literally called oh my god. I don't know where I was going. Um but yeah, no. That whole production, it shouldn't have been a representation in asexual character development or characterization at all, but that's literally the only thing that we had until BoJack Horseman, with
Odd.
probably one of the greatest
Yeah.
asexual representation in media thus far. I cried when I saw that. And when he literally said I'm asexual on my TV, I freaked out.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I was so happy cuz not only is that one of my comfort shows, I love BoJack, but also having a character go on that journey, and it seemed like it was something they had planned fairly early on with him. It like you can even see it in season 1 and season 2 and then leading up to um his different relationships and how he goes about relationships, going into his asexual arc, and then him still trying to navigate
Mm-hmm.
relationships because he still craves
Mm-hmm.
companionship and romantic connection, but just doesn't
Exactly.
want to have sex, which is
Exactly.
so valid.
Yeah.
um oh god, I loved every single second of his character development because I was like, this is it. This is what I want.
Exactly. Because, prior to that, it was Aroace representation, and that was their only aspect to their character. They were
Yeah,
Aroace, they didn't want to talk to anyone, they didn't want to do anything with anyone,
yeah,
and it was very flat, very boring, and they were often just a minor character.
yeah,
And to see actually, Todd, have, big portions of the episode kind of dedicated to this character development. And not only that, but a male asexual character
yep,
who is not Arrow Ace and talks
yeah.
about dating. That is
Oh, it was
huge.
so good. When he made the dating app, I was like, I screamed. God, I love, and I think that also is something else because it is such a stereotype, or at least from what I've seen, of asexuality only being like a woman problem. Like literally on that viral short that I was telling you about, one of the ones that I saw that got a whole bunch of likes was like, "Oh, this is literally only a woman problem. Like this is mainly a woman problem." I'm like, there are asexual men out there, and like I genuinely, I don't want to say I feel bad for asexual men because the stigma that must be around it, and like having your gender questioned because sex is such a prominent thing, like I can't even imagine what that's like. Like that must suck so bad.
Absolutely. And, being, AMAB myself, very
Yeah.
much, ID'd all the time in grocery stores. Sir, sir, sir.
Yeah.
I definitely, society could definitely very much perceive that aspect of me.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's been bothering me a lot going into Tim's and being like, "Sir," and I'm just like, "No, leave me
Oh yeah,
alone.
no.
I'm
I,
not."
I have the opposite problem, and I'm just like, can we not do this,
Yeah,
please?
for sure. uh, so, I think we've kind of alluded to this, but
Mhm.
why do we think that asexuality, you know, historically has always been in the form of aroace representation, and then it hasn't been, say in, I guess Todd's the only great example we have that,
Yeah.
isn't. Why is it that asexuality is often shown in the form of sex repulsed aces?
Um, I did talk about this in a recent video. I think it's because it's very hard to show. Um, Storytelling, especially acting and like shows, visual media, it's a show don't tell kind of situation. So like if a character is gay, you show them with another man. If a character
Mm-hmm.
is bi, you can show them with multiple
Mm-hmm.
genders. If a character is trans, you can show their transition.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, I think for a lot of writers and creatives, it's a hard concept on a production
Yeah.
level to show someone being asexual or
Mm-hmm.
aromantic. And so I think a lot of it is, oh, you show them being aro ace, pair it together, they're not interested in anything. Um so I think that's why a lot of the representation um that has come about within the last like 4 or 5 years has been specifically more on the aro ace side, because it is a little bit easier to show those two identities together and be like, oh, this is how asexuals are. They're just not interested in anything. Um, which is not the case. It's a spectrum, and it should, in my opinion, be shown as a spectrum. I also think a lot of people, because, I've been questioned in my real life about like, oh, so you've had sex, you aren't really whatever. I think a lot of audience members, if they saw someone who is asexual or a character who was said to be ace engaging in certain activities, they would be like, well, this isn't an asexual person. What do you mean? They're like doing all this stuff. They're not asexual. Um, so I think a lot of people in production and storytelling come at it from that angle. They're not really coming at it from a we want to respect the community and all of the aspects of a community. They're probably coming at it from, this isn't really shown, we're gonna try to do what we can and like breadcrumb the ace community. um I personally think that if you are going to be writing an asexual character, you need to have an asexual coordinator, someone in the writing room who is in the ace community writing these characters. I know
Mm-hmm.
that Sex Education did have Jasmine Benoit as a consultant, and they still fucked up that character. I don't even
Yeah.
know how. She literally had to go on Twitter and be like, they didn't listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
um but you need to genuinely listen to the people who are in the community on how to write our stories. And I think
Exactly.
it's it's going to be a progression, and I'm hoping as Hollywood changes and evolves, because in the industry it is changing and evolving right now. They're getting a lot of people out, and I'm hoping they bring a lot kinder, safer people into the industry, and also getting more inclusive, that we start to see a lot more as- asexual representation of the whole community. And I think also just ace people being creative and writing their own stories and um, making their own projects and that kind of thing is going to be really, really helpful in the future.
Absolutely. And I know we talked about this in the previous episode when talking about, a similar question. I posed the thought or question, why isn't there representation of demisexuality, for example? And we were like, you know, just thinking about society's perspective.
Yeah.
First off, society thinks that demisexuality doesn't exist. The other thing is that, as you said, it's show don't tell. So if you have somebody that's, not having sex, and then finally suddenly, oh wait,
Yeah.
they're having sex now, people may read that as, oh, it's just somebody that finally, decided to have sex. That is a very subtle, if you're just trying to show it and people don't have this understanding of what demisexuality is, I think that would be
Yeah.
really difficult to try to portray to a society where that nuance is just not there.
Yeah, and I definitely think for me personally, because obviously you don't want your characters like explaining everything, but I
Mm-hmm.
think explicitly saying certain micro labels, or like
Mm-hmm.
having a character potentially explain something to another character, or like talk about how they experience attraction or
Mm-hmm.
just something. Just like I said, when Todd explicitly said I'm asexual, to me that was
Yeah,
the biggest thing.
absolutely.
So not having people have to read between the lines, not having to have the audience guess what's going on, and like simply having a character just state I'm asexual, I'm demisexual, I'm gray sexual, I'm aromantic, I'm, you know what I mean? Like, I think there are subtle ways to go about it, but I also think it's perfectly fine to flat out say it just so that people can't second guess or question or
Mm-hmm.
be like, oh, it really pisses me off that people will still like head canon like asexual people with like other characters if that character in the show is shown not to be like interested at all. Like that still pisses me off. I'm not gonna lie to you. Um, so like having it be explicitly said, for me at least, is a good thing. I prefer it when it is because then there's no like infighting in the fandom or like people can't dispute it because it's already written in the show and it's been said.
Absolutely. Talon brought up a good point as well. And I had actually not heard that expression, Schrodinger's ace trope. Are you talking
Oh,
about are you talking about House MD? That
oh my god,
horrible
stop.
that
Oh my
horrible
god, I
thing?
hated that episode.
Ugh, that was absolutely horrid. Is
I
that real?
remember that episode when I was younger seeing it. Cuz I was younger when House came out and I remember seeing that. I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, that's so weird. And now
Yeah.
like I rewatched like snippets of that episode and I'm like, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
This is horrible.
Yeah. Basically, I think the I'd have to look up what Schrodinger's ace trope is, but my understanding would be that they can be fixed. Is that kind of the kind of house MD? Oh wait, I fixed this person. They're magically not asexual anymore. Yes, like Ace until being banged, and then boom, they're aloe. Yeah, fuck that. No, that's not. No, just no.
Yeah, I wish I could like just mail a letter to the people of House or whoever wrote that episode and be like, you fucked up. Like a whole
Absolutely.
community is mad at you because of how you represented it, because this isn't something that needs to be fixed, and you shouldn't have portrayed it as a medical issue. Because they used to think that about trans people, they used to think that about gay people. It's not. You're just inherently who you are.
I've had
Like,
doctor
stop.
I've had a doctor write in my fucking medical profile that I have sexual dysfunction because I
Oh
declared
my
to him
god!
I was ace. And so that's now in my medical records,
Oh my god! That's disgusting.
right?
I'm I wanna like that's like pissing me off so much I'm like
Yeah,
tearing up. Holy shit.
yeah.
I
It
am
happens
so
far too
sorry.
much. Yeah, I've talked to, I've definitely talked to a lot of people. We did have you know, send a letter to the health services at my university, and
Okay.
hopefully something happened. I don't know, but yeah,
That's
it
disgusting.
was pretty fucked
Holy
up.
shit.
Well, I'll no, it's okay. But yeah, who do we need to go fight? It
Yeah,
was
honestly, I'm about to be like, I'm a go gently kick this doctor and be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Chat, I'm with you. Let's go. Cause that's so gross. Like, or like when people are like, "Oh, it's like low testosterone or whatever." I've
yeah,
literally had trans men be like, "I'm on like a high dose of tea and I'm still asexual. You can't tell me it's fucking tea.
No.
Like, hello?
Yeah. And yeah, in Canada, they don't, it's, asexuality does not have the protections. And the same in the UK. The UK
Oh
refuses
yeah.
to include asexuality under that, under the protections around conversion therapy and discrimination. You know, the most disgusting part in the UK's um, recent, I guess, legislation is that they won't even acknowledge the A in the LGBTI community. They just drop the A off
What?
altogether. So in the UK, in all the government legislation, all the government documents, it's the LGBTQI community. They just said fuck the A's. Yeah. I know that
Oh
Yasmin
my
Benoit has
god.
talked about this pretty a lot because it's absolutely disgusting.
I knew she was trying to work on something a while ago about like some sort of like recognition being passed, but I didn't know it was like that. That's
Yeah.
disgusting. I mean, I don't even want to talk about LGBTQIA plus laws in the United States.
Oh yeah, that's
I don't even want to go there.
yeah,
I will get pissed off.
yeah. I did not realize that, Talon. I didn't see that. I will need to look that up because I'm actually from Canada myself. I did not realize the NDPs did not include the A in the acronym.
Oh,
That's
they don't in
disgusting.
Canada either?
Apparently, the NDP, the New Democratic Party, which is our, one of the more left-leaning parties,
Yeah.
dropped the A from the 2S LGBTQIA plus acronym.
Oh my god.
I was not aware of that. I have to look that up. Thank you for letting me know that. That's disgusting. Yet another reason why I won't vote for them.
That is very valid.
Busby said, I'm going to punch that doctor in Minecraft.
For legal reasons, I agree.
Yeah. So we've talked about asexuality and, TV and movies.
Yeah.
Do you have any, I know you kind of mentioned this before, but do you have any books, either fiction or nonfiction, that you know of that have a more nuanced representation of asexuality?
I haven't read it because I don't know if we were live when I said it, but I have dyslexia, so getting me to read anything is horrible. The only things I read, regrettably, were Harry Potter and Percy Jackson when I was younger. And then I get most of my Ace content from other content creators.
So valid.
But I know that a lot of people in the Aero Ace community love Loveless.
Oh yeah.
Um, I've been meaning to read it. I'm just horrible at it.
I
I
haven't
know
read it
that
either.
I want to say there is also an
Mm-hmm.
asexual character in Heartstopper as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same one as in the show, but and then I know Ace Dad Advice has come out
Great
with
stuff.
I'm so excited because they're gonna be in a city with their new book in like November near me, and I'm planning on going to
Hell
a
yes.
reading because I'm so excited. Um, and I want again, I'm horrible. I want to read their first book, but it's their second book where I think it's about like navigating relationships
That's
as an ace and
awesome.
arrow person, and I think I'm just like this is the kind of content we need.
For
I
sure.
genuinely think it's so important, especially because so many young Aero Ace people, or just people who are Ace and people who are Aero, feel alone
Mm-hmm.
and feel like, and it's, I know on TikTok I've seen a lot of asexual content creators talking about kind of the epidemic of people in the asexual community feeling alone and like not having community and thinking they're gonna die alone and all of that, which is so sad to me. Especially because I did feel like that when I was younger, which is one of the reasons why I make the content that I do. Is so that people who are just discovering their asexuality know they're not alone. So I think Cody's books are so important and a
Absolutely.
wonderful resource to our community because they go into building your identity and how to form non-traditional relationships, which is what asexuality and aromanticism inherently do.
I managed to push our organization, the one where I run the Ace and Arrow group at,
Mhm.
and they were great. They actually did get Cody Diego Orion's first book. So we have it in our lending library, and I'm so happy for that.
It's called I Am Ace,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, IMAs. We have
Yeah.
that in our lending library. We got a few other ones. We have How to Be Ace by Rebecca Burgess, the graphic novel slash comic. Yeah, we have Angela Chen's Ace book as well. So we got a few. I'm gonna try to push for a few more, but we do have a few at least.
I think it's so important to have those like physical things. Like you can watch a TV show, you can, you know what I mean, but like having a book and having it in your hands and reading the words of someone else and their experience is just so important. It's just another medium of getting that community and realizing like you're not alone and your experience is valid and you're not broken. You're not you're just not alone. I think that's one of the most important messages that every single asexual content creator I've seen pushes.
Absolutely. This book is a little bit more academic. This is Sharonda J. Brown's Refusing Compulsory Sexuality.
I
This
do
one
know.
is a great one. It's called Refusing Compulsory Sexuality, a Black Asexual Lens on Our Sex Obsessed Culture. Great book to read. It is actually where I first learnt of the disgusting ace um, representation in Ian Fleming's James Bond was
Mm,
actually in this book. But it goes into so many things around asexuality. It's got that really
yeah.
awesome definition, which I think is a better way of kind of describing the ace experience. And then it talks a lot about the marginalization of, black asexuals in particular, because,
Oh yeah.
with the hypersexualization that goes along with being black and female, for example. So there's just a lot in that. So I highly recommend anybody that, wants to delve into some of this stuff at a little bit more advanced level. This is not a 101 book by any means. It's not. But if you want to delve into this and get into, some more nuanced stuff, highly recommend that book.
Yeah, no, I definitely think I'm gonna get the audio version because it's so important to hear from other people in our community, especially um BIPOC people in our community, because I will say a lot of the content creators I see are white. So I
Yeah,
think hearing from others in our community is so important. It's so, so
definitely.
important.
I was lucky to have, some Latina, Afro Latina representation on
Oh,
our
nice.
third episode, and it was so lovely to get their perspective. Mabel Luna was such a lovely um, ace Twitch content creator to chat with. I had a real fun time chatting with them,
Oh,
and I'd
nice.
love to get more, you know, more you know, diverse representation. But most of the, as you said, most of the ace content creators I know are, white settler identity.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been difficult. I'd love to get more diverse representation, and I'm trying.
I believe in you. Can I where do I watch all of the podcasts? Is it
So
on YouTube
it's on
or do you have an
YouTube.
archive?
It's
Okay,
so I'll drop it in the chat here. Ace
gotcha.
Podcast, or look up Aspec Podcast
Yep,
series on YouTube. That just popped up in the chat there.
perfect.
So it was episode 3. Mabes or Mabel Luna was in that episode, and it was really lovely to chat with them.
Gotcha.
So we talked about, media representation.
Mhm.
We've talked about, the erasure of asexuality in the queer community, unfortunately, and inflation around sex positivity, sex favorability. The last thing I'd like to bring up, because this is something I go on a major,
Mm.
major rant about every February, is Amatonormativity and Valentine's Day.
Yep, I do too. I do too. I literally I literally made a whole video about how, for me, dumb Valentine's Day was
Right?
last year or this past year. I'm like, this is so stupid. Because to me, if you're with someone, why wouldn't you treat them like that every day? Like, why do you need a specific day to tell someone or like tell people to go buy your partner flowers or take them on a nice date or do something special for like the cis hets are so like it's the barest of minima and it's so I'm just like why? And then also I'm just like the focus on romantic connection being like the highest form of relationship that you could have with another person. I'm like, no.
And
Why?
not just romantic, but a particular type,
Yeah.
monogamous romantic.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm like, there's so many non-monogamous and like polyamorous people in
Mm-hmm.
the asexual community. I myself am non-monogamous. I can kind of, if a partner is monogamous, I can be monogamous. If a partner is polyamorous, I'll be Yeah, I can go either way, honestly.
Yeah,
I don't really care about relationship structure. As long as I am being treated well, that's all I care about.
absolutely.
Um, but like, it's so insane to me that they're non-monogamous or polyam people that can't show off all of the people they care about and all of the people they love because it's so frowned upon
Mm-hmm.
in Western societies to only have all of your expectations and needs met by one person. It's and they get so shamed for it. And I hate
Absolutely.
seeing that.
I've lost so many, the friends I had in high school or, early university, they got into romantic relationships, and then it's like, well, I don't
Yeah.
need you anymore. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but why?
Yeah, no, that unfortunately has happened to me with especially because I was raised Mormon, a lot of my friends did get married young. And so a couple of them are now divorced, some are still married, but there were people who as soon as like you're done being like part of the wedding party, okay, done, bye, like they don't talk to you ever again. Or you have friends that don't really talk to you while they're in the marriage and as soon as they're divorced they come back and it's like well why couldn't you talk to me when you were with someone. It's such a interesting it's so weird to me that
Mhm.
you would isolate yourself in any kind of relationship because I personally don't think that's healthy
No.
whatsoever.
And this is why I tell everybody that they absolutely need to read Andy Nordgren's A Short Instructional Relationship, a short instructional manifesto on relationship anarchy.
Can you send that to me, please?
Yes.
I need that.
It's a blog post that was translated from Swedish. Very short. It's got like,
Okay.
7 or 8 tenets, but I think it applies to anybody anywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, it comes from polyam theory,
Yeah.
but the stuff that they talk about, like all relationships require good communication,
Oh my God, yes. Whenever
absolutely
I
is valid.
whenever I talk about like ace dating advice, anything like that, I always preface it by saying this advice can literally go for anyone. But specifically when you are in a relationship with an asexual person, communication is so important because you need to be able to ask your ace partner, hey, what are you comfortable with? What are you not? Are there times where you are a little bit more okay? Are there times when you're completely no, this is not going to happen? And I don't know if you saw or know about Angsty Ace over on TikTok at all. Her name is Rachel. She's really sweet. But over the summer, she did a survey on like sexuality. So asexual sexuality, and a lot of people took that survey. I want to say it was about 5,000 asexual people, which is insane.
That's amazing.
Um, she the stats on it were crazy with the fluidity of what ace people are or are not comfortable with. Um and like a lot of people said it fluctuates for them what they are comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with. So the generalization of, oh, if you're in a relationship with an asexual person, you're just never going to get any, which potentially might be true, and you should be fine with that. You should know what you're getting into. But it could also fluctuate, and you need
Mm-hmm.
to have the emotional intelligence to be able to communicate with your partner and have them feel safe enough to communicate how they're feeling.
Absolutely. So some of the things that Andy Norgren says is that every relationship is unique, and we
Yep.
should value those each and every one of our relationships for the uniqueness that it brings. And don't rank or, and this is where polyam might come in, but don't rank or compare relationships. Cherish the individual and your connection with them. And the
Yep.
part that I think everybody needs to realize is one person in your life does not need to account for every single one of your needs.
Literally this. And it's taught to people from such a young age. It's the whole idea of a soulmate, or there's only one person for you. You have to find the one. It's like, and as like I said, someone who grew up in a very high demand religion, that was so ingrained from literally the age, I remember thinking from the age of 3 or 4 about the man I was going to grow up to marry. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, and even after I came out, like, to my mom as biromantic, she would be like, "Oh, well, you'll still marry a man." It's like, no, I don't want to be with a man. Like, please. Um, but it's just such a heteronormative, I think, gross way of looking at a relationship of like this
Mm-hmm.
one person. And
Mm-hmm.
it, I think, leaves little room for actual community in people's lives because you are putting all of your expectations on this one person.
And how can any one person have the ability to do everything for you at all times? That's just not possible.
I'm like, that's a superhuman. I don't know what you want. I'm like, I don't know a single person like that whatsoever.
No, absolutely. Being aromantic, like I don't want to be in a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
The theory, the kind of theoretically speaking, the idea of a QPR, queer platonic
Hmm.
relationship seems like a wonderful idea. I could see myself wanting a little bit more emotional connection with somebody.
Yeah.
But as it is right now, I've got all sorts of different communities here locally in Toronto that I am happy to rely on for all my different needs. That's
Yeah.
what works for me.
Yeah. And I
Why?
genuinely
Yeah.
think that's beautiful.
Yeah. Why should I, A, look for this one person, and B, why should I be villainized for not wanting to be with that special someone?
Oh my god. Do you still get asked by, like, family members, like, "Okay, so, like, when are you gonna settle down? Like, when's this
Yes.
gonna stop?" Really?
Yes, I
Oh my god!
mostly it's my grandparents because you know
Oh
they
my god!
want the grandchild. But
Yeah.
yeah, they
Oh my
still ask me. I've been able
god!
to use the I'm still doing
Crazy.
my PhD card for a number of
Yeah.
years. I know that's eventually not going to work anymore,
Yeah.
but I don't
That's
really want to
crazy.
explain to them why that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
But it is frustrating. I've gone on a many rants in this podcast and in IRL groups about how much I hate that question in particular. So when are you going to
I'm so
find
sorry.
yourself a lovely, yes, heterosexual, assumptions, lovely girlfriend? I'm
Yeah.
like, eh, no, not going to happen.
I'm so sorry that happens to you. I really the thing when people ask that, most of the time, I know they're not coming from a bad place.
No,
Like, it's that, like,
absolutely.
oh, they think
Absolutely.
what works for them works for everyone,
Yeah, for
but it's
sure.
just it's such when you hear it over and over and over again, it's just so
Frustrating.
it is frustrating.
Absolutely. And I don't think my grandparents are ever going to understand what a queer platonic partnership is. I think that part
Yeah.
would just absolutely cause their mind to implode. So I'm
I
not going to
guarantee
broach that
you
subject.
they would be like, "So you just want a friend?" "No, grandma, it's not that." Oh my god. It would be such a hard conversation.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So the term that I love to bring up, and I try every single pride to include it on my sign, is
Mhm.
amatonormativity. And this is the assumption that everyone desires to be in a coupled, monogamous romantic relationship. And as I've said on this podcast, that I know that you've may have not used that term necessarily, but you've talked about it, it is really harmful to the aspec community
Yeah.
because not everybody's looking for a coupled romantic relationship and don't have to be in one. It's perfectly valid not to be, but that's the
Yeah.
default assumption from society. Obviously, plays heavily into the heavily commercialized Valentine's Day.
Dude. Oh
I
my god.
like to piss people off by calling it cheap chocolate Eve.
Yeah.
That's how I get around it. How could you see society being more inclusive to the ace and arrow communities on days like Valentine's Day? Is that even possible?
I think I mean, I like I said before, I don't even think we should have it. But if I think it's a beautiful thing to want a day to celebrate
Mm-hmm.
the close relationships in your life.
Definitely.
So I think it should be more based around just the love that you have.
Absolutely. That
Whether
is
that's
valid.
familial love,
Yeah.
romantic love, platonic
Yeah.
love. Literally, some
Exactly.
of my greatest loves of my life are my friends. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I would literally die for these people. Like, I don't think you
Absolutely.
understand. Like, I I love the people that are in my life, and I don't think romantic love should be the top priority. I think that, like I said, it is harmful. Um, to have that be the sole reason of the day, and that I know that a lot of people in my community do tend to make Valentine's Day more of like a Palentine's Day, or like they
Yeah.
go out as a friend group,
Yeah.
they get each other gifts,
Yeah.
they just do sweet things for each other. They make each other, like, they do crafting things. Like
Definitely.
it's so sweet to me, at least. Like I think it's
Absolutely.
really a really great way to spend a day that's commercially been for, like you said, heterosexual monogamous people, and kind of skew that a little bit and be like, no, I'm gonna celebrate all aspects of what love is and what
Yeah.
love can be. And it it should be more community based. I mean, I just think love in general should be more community based in general, because of Western societies trying to popularize and doing a good job of individualism. I think it's hurt people in general, and it hurts the asexual and aromantic community because it puts an emphasis on, only having a couple, and then you have the nuclear family and all that. So, if you are going to have a day like Valentine's Day, I think it should be a community-based thing. It
Yes.
shouldn't just be about one person.
Yes. And it definitely also goes beyond the ace and arrow community, because what about folks that happen to be single on that day? You're basically
Yeah.
villainized for,
They really are. Like,
yeah.
I know a friend of mine who she is heterosexual, and monogamous, and I love hearing about her man trouble. But every single time on Valentine's Day that she doesn't have a partner, she just kind of is like, "Well, what do I do?"
Yeah.
But as
Absolutely.
she's gotten older, she's gotten a lot better about going out with her friends and like making a good day of it, because we're not in the same state anymore. But like when she was younger, she definitely would spend the day being like, "Why don't I have a man?"
Absolutely. So I did actually attend a Valentine's Day this past February, and it was
Oh,
absolutely amazing. It was with one of the Toronto Ace and Arrow groups that I
nice.
hang out with, and we went to a lovely cafe in Toronto. We all kind of brought Valentine's Day gifts. Mine were, I made some Valentine's Day cards, which were a
Oh,
combination of um, rants about amatonormativity, that's on topic for me, and
as it should be.
references to Andy Nordgren's short instructional manifesto for relationship anarchy. And I was like, that is what it should be about. Everybody needs to learn about Andy Nordgren's A Short Instructional Manifesto for Relationship Anarchy, and everybody needs to know what amatonormativity is and why it's harmful.
They
So,
do. They do. I honestly, I have been meaning to make a video about it, and I do know that A Stat Advice, Cody talks a lot about it, which
yeah.
I very much appreciate them for, especially because they do have such a big platform.
Yes,
I would say behind Yasmin, um, they are the biggest asexual content creator. So I'm very happy that
absolutely.
they, honestly, I'd say at least once every 2 or 3 weeks talk about it, if not more
Yeah.
frequently talk about it. Um, so yeah.
I'm just too small to make a big dent. I can do it like,
No,
in
you're
my little
fine.
spaces, you
I
know.
believe.
I go to Toronto Pride and I get that sign out there with amatonormativity on it. And maybe I'm getting a few people in the crowd to think, what is that? What does that
Yeah.
term mean?
But like it's just getting it out there, and the
Yeah.
some of those people might not have ever heard or thought or know what that word is unless you put it on a sign.
Yep.
And who knows, someone might have taken like a promo shot with it in, and then whatever outlet, there are tons of people seeing your sign. You know what
Funny
I
you
mean?
mention that.
Oh,
Well,
really?
so at Toronto Pride this year, we had a documentary crew working on a
Really?
documentary called The End of Sex,
Okay.
exploring why, you know, there's a general decline in the number of people having sex globally, But as
Hmm.
part of it, they want to explore asexuality and aromanticism. They
Okay.
did kind of conflate the two in one of the questions they asked, so I made
Gotcha.
sure to differentiate asexuality and aromanticism. But they
Okay.
absolutely loved my sign, so they got all sorts of B-roll footage of me with the sign of, amatonormativity.
Wait, that's so good though. See? So like people will see it and look it up and be like, "What is this?"
Yeah,
Like,
so I
wait, that's so
might be
cool.
in a documentary going forward. They were supposed to get back to me. I know they want to talk to me some more about, they want me to play a bigger role in that documentary. I'm still waiting to
Yeah.
hear back from them, but that was kind of an exciting thing in June to be like, "Hey, I'm going to be in a documentary about asexuality." Hell yes. Little me.
What when it comes out, let me know. I'll watch it.
Absolutely. So yeah, look out for The End of Sex, a documentary, when it comes out, because I'll be featured in it. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I don't know much about when it's going to be released. They're still
Yeah.
they're still working on it. I think they still want to get some more footage, but I
Oh
am
yeah.
excited about that. That'll be like my first kind of like, hey, look, I've actually somebody that people can recognize kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of all the questions I had prepared for today. Is there anything that I missed? Anything else that you want to add?
I think you covered a lot, which is
Absolutely.
very, very good. Um,
Absolutely.
does the chat have any questions?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's see.
Q&A, let's go.
Absolutely. Let's scroll through, see what if I missed anything in particular. Yeah, absolutely, Talon. I Am Ace is a great book, and I'm so glad that we have it in our local organization. Singles Awareness Day, hell yes.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
know that. That's so cool.
no, I think they were saying they would love to they'd love to have a Singles Awareness Day.
We should make it.
Absolutely. The Four Horsemen of the Ace Apocalypse. That's a good one. Heteronormativity, amatonormativity, and compulsory sexuality. I was going to say allonormativity, but that falls under compulsory sexuality because
Mm,
allonormativity is the assumption that everybody desires to be in a sexual relationship.
yeah.
Yeah, capitalism is a scourge on everything.
Yeah. I remember, because I'm thinking about potentially, it's one of my ideas, making a kind of meetup
Ooh,
app for
shiny.
asexual and aromantic people. If I ever get that in development, it's something that, like, I want to build community and have people, be able to talk to other people like them. And I was speaking to um, one of my mom's friends. Her husband is a wonderful businessman, entrepreneur. And I was telling him the idea, and he was like, "How would you sell that?" Because
Mm-hmm.
he's just like, most people in your advertising, it's like sex. Like,
Yeah.
that's what you use. You
Mm-hmm.
use sex. So he was like, it would be so interesting for an advertising because you're advertising to people who aren't like don't have sexual attraction.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, that's such an interesting concept. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
thanks, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Ooh,
Vorbane
shiny.
mentioned maybe Saint Valentine is the fourth horseman of the Ace Apocalypse or the
yes.
Arrow Apocalypse. Actually, did you know that there's a Discord called Arrowocalypse?
Really?
Yes, it's amazing. The name
Send
is
me the
absolutely
link.
amazing. Sorry?
Send me the link.
I will. I will link you the link for sure. I haven't been as active in that Discord, unfortunately,
Gotcha.
of late, but yeah, there's some pretty cool folks in there.
Nice.
And also, the name is just absolutely fantastic. Arrowocalypse.
Aerocalypse. I love that.
Talon said that they call singles. Well, that's what they call Valentine's Day, Single Awareness Day,
Gotcha.
Because obviously, yes, you are very hyper aware that you're single on that day for sure. 'Cause-
I also think it's important to like let people know that. Be
yeah,
like, "Hey, I'm happy to be single."
exactly.
Like, there's nothing wrong with it. There really isn't
Yeah,
anything wrong with it.
exactly. I'm perfectly happy with the relationships I have in my life that are not romantic. I get a lot from them. I
Yeah.
love the work that I do with the local organization. I love running the Ace and Arrow discussion group. This was a big source of inspiration for this podcast, and I'm so glad I've
Yeah.
been able to take it onto Twitch and bring it onto a very different platform.
Mhm.
But if it wasn't for the local group, this would never have happened in the first place for me.
Oh my god.
So, and then I love being able to go to Toronto and hang out with all the cool folks in the various groups there.
Yeah.
That's what that's what energizes me. The PhD sucks all the life out of me, and then I go to like
Oh.
Toronto and I'm like, get me out of here, please. And then like it
Take me away
re-energy.
from
Exactly. Absolutely. We did talk about in the second episode of the podcast, all three of us were some flavor of arrow ace and non-binary.
Mm,
So we did talk about the intersectionalities of non-binary identities and aceness for
yeah.
sure. And you want to know something absolutely bizarre? It's both hilarious and sad. So
Mm,
I run one of the groups, but the fourth week of the month, there's three support groups that I either run or attend. Tuesday's the
okay.
non-binary group, Wednesday's the Ace and Arrow group, Thursday's the neurodivergent group.
Oh my
Guess
god,
what? There
stop.
is a huge amount of overlap between those three groups, and the
Oh yeah.
organization totally overlooked that fact.
Oh my god.
So that this week was one of those weeks where Tuesday I had the non-binary group, Wednesday I had my arrow ace group, Thursday I had the neurodivergent group, and I was just by the end of it, I was just like, I'm so tired, please,
Is it all
no.
over Zoom or do you meet in person?
So they're hybrids, so you can come in person. Well,
Okay.
actually, the neurodivergent group is not hybrid. That one's in person only. But
Okay.
the non-binary and the Ace and Arrow group, you can come in person or you can join via Zoom. We offer both.
Wait, that's so cool. Oh my god.
Welcome
And you
on in.
started that by yourself?
No, so actually it started as a group that was not part of this organization. So it started as its own
Okay.
thing, as a
Gotcha.
meetup group. And then as it grew, um, the, there was somebody else running it initially, and I was just a
Mhm.
participant. And then as it started to grow, the organizer reached out to the organization that I work at and was like,
Mhm.
would you be interested in absorbing or taking on this group? And they said,
Oh my god.
absolutely. We don't have anything for Ace and Arrow folks. And
Oh
so
my
it
god.
became part of the organization. And shortly after that happened, the original organizer stepped down and I took over it. And so I ran it for about a year and a half alone. And then,
Mhm.
7 or 8 months ago, I guess, we had a second co-facilitator join on. And so it's been
Nice.
really awesome to have a second co-facilitator to help me run that group. Yo,
Honestly,
welcome
I'd
on in,
love
Ghost
to.
Hugs incoming. Good to see you, Sora. Sora is another Ace content creator.
Hello.
Um,
I'd love to learn more about like how you run that and stuff because there there's some in my area, but because of where I am, it's a little bit harder to get to.
yeah,
So I'd love
absolutely.
to like learn how you did that and like organize that because I have met other ace people periodically throughout my life, but like currently I don't IRL have anyone that's like
Yeah,
on the asexual spectrum, and I would love to
absolutely.
have more asexual friends.
For sure. So I'm really lucky in that, I've got this group locally, and then there's two
Yeah.
different Ace and Arrow organizations in Toronto that I
Hmm.
that I do, associate with as well. So
Gotcha.
between those three, I've got lots and lots of Ace and Arrow folks IRL that I know, which
I
is
love
absolutely
that.
fantastic.
It
Um,
brings up such like community. Whenever I do meet a wild ace, I'm just like, oh my god, I love you. I want to be your best.
Definitely, for sure. The Yeah, so the way that we run the Ace and Arrow group here locally is,
Hmm.
we run it as, so it's called a peer support and discussion group. Historically,
Okay.
we've run it more as a discussion group where we
Gotcha.
have like a set of questions, kind of like what I do with the podcast, but we talk about
Hmm.
one particular topic usually. And so a lot
Gotcha.
of these kind of ideas and concepts for the podcast came from this discussion group because we've talked about
Hmm.
things like amatonormativity. We've talked about things like relationship anarchy and how it can be useful for the Ace and Arrow experience. And so
Yeah.
um, that's kind of how we run it. Lately, we've started experimenting a little bit and adding a bit more of a peer support aspect to see, if
Okay.
folks want to kind of have it run a little bit more like a peer support group. But what we
Hmm.
found is that a lot of the folks coming to the group really come to it for the social aspect because they're like,
Oh
oh my
yeah.
God, aces in the wild. And,
Yeah.
as you said, so absolutely.
That's so cool. Oh my god.
Ghost Hugs Incoming had a great point. Whenever they see people with a black ring on their middle finger, they
Yep.
ask, "Oh wait, is this an ace in the wild?" What I don't see is the white ring on the middle finger very often though, because that's the arrow
Yeah, I
ring.
don't think I've ever
No,
personally
that's
seen a white.
I'd love to get an ace ring and an arrow ring for sure, but also money.
I know. I know. I
Yeah,
used to work
the
at a jeweler and I got a black ring from her and then I lost it and I was like,
oh
well, I was
no.
given that for free, so
Yeah.
whoops.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about the arrow ring. It's much less known. But yeah, I think it's black ring. I'm gonna mess this up. Black ring, right finger is the ace ring. Black ring, left
Yes.
finger means you're a swinger. I don't know.
Really?
Apparently. Something like
I
that.
thought
Or
their
did I?
symbol was like a pineapple or something. An
No.
upside down pineapple. I heard
So
wrong.
I yeah, I think it's right hand ace, left hand arrow, I believe. So it's the
Gotcha.
white ring on the left middle finger is arrow, and then obviously other hand the black ring is ace. Sora said, "Get that correct." Did I screw it up? Let me see.
Where was
Did
I
I screw it
wrong?
up? Was I wrong? No. Let's Google it.
I
Um,
want to say though that it is the right middle finger
that's
though.
what I thought.
I
Yeah.
always thought it was.
Yeah, a black ring worn on the middle finger of the right
Yep.
hand is the ace ring. So I got it.
Yep.
Yay! Black ring on any other finger is a swinger. The
On
ace
any other
community, yeah.
finger? Oh my god.
The ace community has it exclusively reserved for them. So go
As
aces.
they should.
Yeah.
As we should.
Ghost Hugs Incoming said, I have an IRL ace friend whose dad does blacksmithing.
Oh,
Um, and I guess their friend's dad made them an ace ring.
that is
But they
so cool.
wait, no, I think what they said is he made, so the person making the rings made a black ring for his right middle finger before he learned about asexuality.
Oh my god, stop.
That's
I'd be like,
amazing.
well, what can I do now?
Yeah.
Put it on the other middle finger. I'm sure it fits.
But yeah, the arrow ring is not well known for sure. That one's
Yeah, no,
much
it's
less known.
not. I think I only learned about it about a year and a half ago because I
Yeah,
saw someone posting about it during Aromantic Awareness Week, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize that an arrow ring was a thing
yeah.
at
I
all.
only learned
I
about it
only knew
recently.
about the ace ring.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that one I learned about much more recently. Also, did you hear that the shoot, Aurea. Are you familiar with the organization AUREA?
It sounds so familiar.
That is
It
the
sounds really familiar.
so that is essentially the closest equivalent to AVEN that the
Okay.
aromantic community has. It stands for,
Got you.
it is a really, really long, um, are you ready for this? It's
Yeah.
the Aromantic Spectrum Union for Recognition, Education, and Advocacy. That's what it stands for. The Aromantic Spectrum Union for Recognition, Education, and Advocacy. That's a big mouthful. But
Listen.
they finally hit nonprofit status. So
Oh my
they
God.
fundraised to become a not-for-profit, and they
Yeah.
met their fundraising goal. So in their process of becoming a not-for-profit as of like 2 months ago. And that is
Oh my
huge
God.
because now they can do so much more. Because before they
That's
were just a volunteer run organization online,
yeah.
but now that they've reached not for profit status, that opens up so much more for them to do. And I'm really excited to kind of see it take off now.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Because
That's
nobody
amazing.
knows about Aurea. And it's
Yeah, I
because
was
they've
like,
been so
I
hidden.
had no idea. I like it did sound familiar, but I was like, I have no idea. I'll look into them.
Lovely to see you, Sora. I totally understand. Have a wonderful night. Thank you so
Good.
much for stopping by. It has been such a pleasure chatting with you. I've had a lot of fun
Yeah.
chatting. Thank you so
Same.
much for joining. Um, I guess to kind of close out,
Mhm.
I'd like to give you a chance to, remind us where we can find you, where's your channel, and what socials can we find you on?
My biggest is YouTube, Lynn Saga. That is the name of my channel. And then Instagram is Lynn Saga 01,
Yeah,
01. Honestly, those are the two platforms that I am on the most. You can look at my stories and me being ridiculous. I don't post as much on Instagram, but yeah, my stories can be a little fun sometimes. And then yeah, I post on YouTube shorts and long form videos. I try to get at least one or two out a week, and I do talk about asexual, non-binary, aromantic things that are happening in the queer community, but I do try to focus on those three the
absolutely.
most.
Yeah, the focus of this podcast is, asexuality and aromanticism, but I'm really trying to
Yeah.
take an intersectional lens. And so we've
Oh yeah,
talked
100%.
about, the intersectionality with non-binary identity. Recently, we talked about the intersectionality with neurodivergence.
Mm,
And we're gonna hopefully explore, some of the what I really want to get into is, you know, the cultural differences around asexuality and aromanticism and really delve into, societies that are not white settler North American perspectives
yep.
and how do they differ. So I'm excited to do that in the future. Ghost Hugs Incoming mentioned that your videos helped them when they were questioning being Arrow.
Oh my god, wait. I love that. Thank you. I'm so happy. Thank you for letting me be part of your journey. That is literally the only reason why I make the content I do is to help people who are questioning. That is genuinely why I make videos. So, I am very honored to be part of your aromantic journey and being there for you.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that that Lynn Saga was able to help you on that journey. And people have told me that this podcast helped them realize that they're aerospec. And so that really touched my heart as well. So love the 8 Warriors comment. Straight aces are LGBTQ. Fight me.
They are.
Yeah.
They
Absolutely.
are.
It's not
And anyone can fight me.
Yeah, it is not a typical heterosexual experience. It is not.
It's really
So,
not.
absolutely. Ghost Hugs Incoming said thank you so much.
Of course.
And it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you
Thank
tonight.
you.
Lovely.
Thank you so much for having me. This was
Absolutely.
such a good time. I was a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie. I get nervous streaming, like anytime I stream.
For sure.
So this was a really, really good experience, and you are very welcoming. And I love your energy a lot.
Aw, thank you so much. And it's been lovely chatting. I was very much looking forward to chatting with you, and that time flew by so quickly. It's been 2.5
It really
hours.
did. It did.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I normally get tired after an hour and a half, and I'm just like, I'm still good right now. I actually have to go pick up a roommate. I'm like, I'm ready to go.
All right. Thanks again.